The theater was quiet in a way that felt almost gentle. It was the kind of quiet that came before something important, when the air itself seemed to pause and listen. The lights above the stage glowed softly, not too bright, not too dim, as if they understood that this moment needed calm more than excitement. Rows of empty seats stretched into the shadows, waiting for the next sound, the next story, the next heartbeat to fill them. Backstage, an 11-year-old boy stood very still. His name was Miguel. Miguel was small for his age, with narrow shoulders and hands that kept rubbing together, slow and careful, as if warming themselves. His black hair was neatly combed, though a few strands refused to stay in place. His shoes were polished, but the soles were thin, and they made almost no sound when he shifted his weight. Around his neck hung a simple guitar strap, holding a worn acoustic guitar that had clearly lived a long life before this moment. Miguel took a slow breath in. Then another. He had practiced breathing like this at home, counting quietly in his head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. His mother had taught him that trick on nights when the rain leaked through the roof and the noise outside made it hard to sleep. She had said, slow breath, slow heart. Miguel believed her. Behind him, his mother stood with her hands clasped. Her eyes were shiny, but her smile was steady. She did not say much. She never did when words were too heavy. Instead, she reached forward and straightened Miguel's collar, then gave his shoulder a gentle squeeze. It was a small touch, but it carried years of love, years of sacrifice, years of quiet hope. They had traveled very far to stand in this place. At home in the Philippines, Miguel's days were simple but not easy. He woke up early to help his mother prepare food they could sell. He carried water when the pipes were dry. He practiced guitar in the evenings, sitting on the floor because they did not have a chair that was truly his. Music was not a dream that came easily. It was something he held onto carefully, like a fragile glass that could break if shaken too hard. Sometimes, people told him that his dreams were too big. They said he was too young, too small, too ordinary. But at night, when the house was quiet and the world felt far away, Miguel played songs he did not fully understand yet. Songs about places he had never seen. Songs about sadness, longing, and freedom. Music made him feel less alone. It made the walls of their small home seem wider. It made the future feel possible. Now, that future waited on the other side of the stage. A voice called his name. Miguel swallowed, nodded once, and stepped forward. As he walked onto the stage, the lights felt warmer than he expected. Not harsh, not blinding, just warm, like afternoon sun through a window. He could see the judges' table clearly. Simon Cowell sat in the center, his expression calm and unreadable. To his side were Howie Mandel, leaning forward with interest, Heidi Klum with her gentle smile, and Sofia Vergara, watching with curious eyes. They were people Miguel had seen on a small screen back home. Now they were real. They breathed. They blinked. They waited. The audience was quiet, not silent, but close to it. The kind of quiet where every small sound mattered. Miguel stood at the microphone. His guitar rested against his chest. For a moment, he forgot what to do with his hands. Then he remembered. He adjusted the strap, placed his fingers on the strings, and looked up. "Hello," he said softly. His voice was clear but small, like a pebble dropped into still water. Simon leaned toward his microphone. "Hello, what's your name?" "My name is Miguel," the boy replied. "And how old are you, Miguel?" Simon asked. "I am 11 years old," Miguel said. There was a gentle ripple of sound in the audience. Not laughter, not surprise, just awareness. Simon nodded. "And where are you from?" "I am from the Philippines," Miguel answered. He felt his chest tighten as he said it. Not from fear, but from pride. He wanted to carry his home with him onto this stage. "What are you going to sing for us today?" Simon asked. Miguel hesitated, just for a second. He looked down at his guitar, at the scratches near the sound hole, at the faded wood where his fingers rested every day. Then he looked back up. "I will sing Hotel California," he said. The reaction was immediate, though still quiet. Raised eyebrows, small smiles. A sense of surprise passed through the room like a breeze. "That's a big song," Howie said kindly. Miguel nodded. "Yes, sir." Simon studied him for a long moment. "Whenever you're ready," he said. Miguel took another slow breath. The first chord rang out, soft and careful. It was not rushed. It was not loud. It was played the way Miguel played at home, with patience and respect for the song. Each note had space around it, room to breathe. The melody filled the theater slowly, like light spreading across a dark room. When Miguel began to sing, his voice surprised everyone. It was not powerful in the way adults often expect power. It did not shout. It did not push. Instead, it carried a quiet honesty that settled into the hearts of those listening. His accent was gentle. His phrasing was thoughtful. He sang each word as if tasting it, understanding its shape even if he did not yet understand its full meaning. On a dark desert highway. The audience leaned in. Miguel's eyes were open, but they did not look at the judges or the crowd. They looked somewhere far away. Somewhere inside. Somewhere that held long walks home, dim lights, and a steady sound of rain on metal roofs. His voice trembled slightly on the higher notes, but he did not pull away. He stayed with them, trusting the song to carry him. As the music continued, something shifted. Simon's expression changed first. His usual guarded look softened, just a little. He stopped tapping his pen. He stopped moving. He listened. Howie's mouth curved into a small smile, his eyes shining with something close to disbelief. Heidi pressed her hand lightly to her chest. Sophia's gaze did not leave the stage. Miguel sang about a place he had never seen, but somehow, it felt real. The story of the song mixed with his own story, becoming something new. Not just a cover. Not just a performance. It became a moment of connection between a child and a world much larger than him. Halfway through the song, Miguel's fingers began to shake. It was small at first. Almost invisible, but Miguel felt it. He felt the weight of the room, the eyes, the expectation. For a moment, doubt crept in. A quiet voice whispered that he did not belong here. That he should be back home, sitting on the floor, playing only for himself. His voice wavered. The audience held its breath. Miguel closed his eyes. He remembered his mother's hand on his shoulder. He remembered the nights without electricity, when the stars were brighter because there was nothing else to compete with them. He remembered why he loved music. Not for applause. Not for judges, but because it made his heart feel full. He took another breath and kept singing. When he reached the final lines, his voice cracked. It was not a mistake. It was emotion spilling over. Tears filled his eyes, and one escaped, tracing a slow path down his cheek. He did not wipe it away. He did not stop. He finished the song with honesty, letting the last note fade naturally into silence. The silence after the song was deep. For a moment, no one moved. Then the audience stood. The applause was not wild at first. It started gently, like rain. Then it grew, wave after wave, until the sound filled every corner of the theater. People wiped their eyes. Some smiled through tears. Others simply clapped, grateful to have witnessed something real. Miguel stood frozen, his hands still on his guitar. He did not understand why people were standing. He did not understand why his chest felt so tight. He only knew that his eyes were full, and his heart was beating fast. Simon stood up. The theater grew quiet again, quickly, almost instinctively. Simon walked to the front of the judges' table. He looked at Miguel, really looked at him, and when he spoke, his voice was softer than usual. "You know," Simon said, "this song has been sung by some of the greatest singers in the world. And I can honestly say, I have never heard it sung quite like that." Miguel's hands began to shake again, but this time, it was different. Simon continued, "What you did was not about showing off. It was about feeling, and that is something you cannot teach." Miguel felt tears spill over now, freely. "You reminded me," Simon said, pausing, "why music matters." Then Simon turned and reached for the golden buzzer. Time seemed to slow. Miguel watched as Simon's hand hovered for just a moment, then pressed down. The sound of the buzzer echoed through the theater, rich and bright. Golden confetti burst from above, raining down like sunlight made solid. It swirled around Miguel, catching in his hair, resting on his shoulders, covering the stage in shimmering gold. Miguel dropped to his knees. He cried openly now, his small body shaking as the reality of the moment settled in. The audience cheered, louder than before. His mother rushed onto the stage, wrapping him in her arms. They held each other tightly, surrounded by golden light. Miguel's tears were not just happiness. They were relief, gratitude, release, years of quiet struggle finding a voice. Simon watched them with a look that said more than words ever could. As the confetti slowly fell to the ground, Miguel stood again. He wiped his face with the back of his sleeve and looked out at the audience. He bowed slightly, a simple gesture, full of respect. In that moment, Miguel was still just an 11-year-old boy from the Philippines. He was still small, still learning, still growing, but he was also something more. He was proof that dreams can travel far, that music can cross oceans, and that even the quietest voices can be heard if they sing from the heart. And as the lights dimmed and the cheers faded into memory, Miguel held his guitar close, knowing that this was not the end of his story. It was only the beginning.